Hey everybody, how's it going? I just wanted to let you know before we start that these watch dates are not meant to predict the date of the asteroid impact. I personally do not know the date of the asteroid impact, and I'm not affiliated with anybody who claims they were given the date of the asteroid impact. I'm not judging them or anything. Maybe they were shown the date. I don't know. I just want you to know that I personally was not shown the date. And because Jesus said we won't know the day or the hour, I'm not expecting to find the exact date of the asteroid impact in the text either. So I just want you to know that. Um, but on this channel, we do watch certain dates. Sometimes we know exactly what to expect on a certain date. Other times we have a general idea, and sometimes we have no idea what will happen. But significant events have been happening on our watch dates on this channel for years. And the most recent date we were watching was February 11th through the 13th. So this is a video I uploaded January 10th, showing the watch period February 11th through the 13th, having to do with either the Islamic State or North Korea. And on Wednesday, February 11th, Obama sent a formal request to Congress for authorization to go to war against the Islamic State for 3 years without restrictions on where U.S. forces can go. And it was submitted Wednesday morning on February 11th, and then on February 12th, U.S. troops held a military exercise in South Korea, which was obviously to prepare for possible war against North Korea. So we had two events involving both the Islamic State and North Korea on our exact watch window for an event involving the Islamic State and North Korea. So, this, just so you know, this 40-day pattern thing, it actually started on our watch date from last year, the June 11th through the 15th watch period. What ended up happening, what you might remember last year in, I think it was January or February, I uploaded a video about it saying I had this really bad feeling about it. And I did think it had to do with the asteroid impact at that time. But I just remember that I had a really, really bad feeling. And you can tell in the video, I honestly felt that way. I had this horrible foreboding feeling about that time period. And what ended up happening during that time period was the Camp Spiker massacre that the Islamic State did. And so, I mean, I just want you to know that even though sometimes I might think, that something's going to happen on a certain date, that doesn't mean that that event is going to happen on that date, but it might be something else. You know what I'm saying? I did upload, what's interesting about it is I did upload a video later showing that the Revelation 9 chapter that talks about the asteroid impact talks about this army that's prepared, and the Islamic State army actually came out of the Euphrates just like it says in Revelation 9. So honestly, you guys, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but I mean, things are happening on the dates that we're watching, not because of me, not because I know what's going to happen, but because there are patterns. There are patterns. And we just I recognize some of the patterns, so that's all it is. But anyway, so since that Camp Spiker massacre, that was just a horrible event that the Islamic State did in June, that everybody, that just became a huge issue. Ever since then, there were these 40-day patterns that kept playing out. And so, I mean, you could see right here, 40 days after that, they destroyed the tomb of Jonah, which Jesus said, the only sign the evil generation's going to get is the sign of Jonah. 40 days after the destruction of the tomb of Jonah, the North Korea leader disappeared. 40 days after that, he reappeared, and the Sony Sony delayed that movie about him. 40 days after that, Sony was hacked at 8:15, which is the time the Hiroshima bomb was dropped. Also, the Ferguson verdict was read at 8:15. 40 days after that, the Italian ferry holding the Syrian migrants, that fire occurred, that Italian ferry fire. And I explained the reasonings behind that. I have a video on that explaining that I think it might have had something to do with the Islamic State, because they had proclaimed that they were going to go after the Pope. And then all of a sudden there were these explosions on this ship that had to do with the oil. And remember, they had taken over the oil field and all this other stuff. So many patterns in here. They can't go into it, but I do have a video explaining that. It's bad. I think I talk about the ferry fire connection to the Islamic State. Anyway, that was the next 40-day pattern. And then the recent one was the Obama's war request to go to war against the Islamic State, and also the North Korean war exercise. So there you have it. That's the 40-day pattern since that June event last year. Okay. So the next 40-day watch will be 40 days after February 11th, and that will be March 23rd through the 25th. So again, I mean, I don't know what will happen, if anything, but if it follows this pattern, it will have something to do with the Islamic State and or North Korea. And again, I'm not trying to predict anything. I'm just observing the pattern. And if something happens on that 40-day window, it'll be the 7th 40-day fulfillment. Okay, so on the calendar, these dates in royal blue, like the release of Noah's dove next week, those are anniversaries of certain biblical events on the ancient biblical calendar. And I'm sure you know about the solar eclipse that's happening on March 20th. And that's occurring on the first day of the first month on the biblical calendar, the standard biblical calendar. And I'm sure you also know about the lunar eclipse on April 4th that is occurring on standard Passover. So a lot of people are watching those dates because of the lunar tetrad pattern that Mark Biltz discovered, that's occurring in both 2014, or did occur in 2014, and is also continuing in 2015. So basically, in both 2014 and 2015, the solar and lunar eclipses are occurring on the first and last biblical appointments of the year, which is a rare event. And Joel 2:31 says the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the day of the Lord. And we know the day of the Lord represents the asteroid impact. It's also known as the day of wrath. So Joel 2:31 might be a clue that there will be a solar eclipse followed by a lunar eclipse before the asteroid impact, because the moon turns red during a lunar eclipse. And that makes sense, but I just wanted to point out that in Matthew 24:29, Jesus says after the tribulation, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give her light. So that's not actually the eclipses right there. That's when the stars fall. And Revelation 9 says the sun and the air are darkened because of the smoke that rises out of the pit that's created by the asteroid impact. So that's actually the darkening of the whole sky and the air and everything. That's what Jesus is talking about in Matthew 24:29. So he says the moon will be dark at that point, and that's because of that asteroid impact. But in Joel 2, it says the moon will be blood red before the day of the Lord. So when it says the sun will be turned dark and the moon will turn red before the day of the Lord, that might mean a solar and lunar eclipse will occur before the asteroid impact. And the solar and lunar eclipses coming up this year are not just any solar and lunar eclipses. They're eclipses that are occurring on the biblical appointed times. So that's why so many people are watching the eclipses this year. But on this channel, we're watching Passover not only because of the lunar eclipse, but also because Daniel 9:27 says the next thing to happen is the ceasing of Passover. And this is a very specific and precise prophecy that we've looked at before, and everything appears to have happened except the destruction of the city and the ceasing of Passover in the midst of the 7 years. And 2015 and 2016 are the last 2 years of that 7-year period we're in now, which is so far matched exactly what Daniel 9 predicted. So Passover in both 2015 and 2016 are high watches because Daniel indicates Passover may cease within the 7-year period that we seem to be in now. That word that's translated as Passover, though, that can also be translated as thank offering. So we can't be sure, but it is a high watch in 2015 and 2016. The other point is that Revelation 11 seems to indicate that the 3.5 years will start after the Western holiday season. So we might be past that window already. I don't know. But I think once spring starts, we're no longer in the period after the holiday season. But Jesus did say, pray that your flight be not in the winter. And we know he considered the house of Israel to be the whole world. So that means winter can refer to both the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So right now it's winter in the northern hemisphere and summer in the southern hemisphere. So when he said, pray your flight is not in the winter, that could mean that the escape will be either in the spring, summer, or fall, not in the winter. But we also know that summer in the northern hemisphere is winter. It's still winter in the southern hemisphere and vice versa. So that indicates the escape will not happen in either the winter or the summer. Because if it's winter here, it's summer there. And if it's winter there, it's summer here. So that indicates that he might have been saying, okay, it's going to happen in the spring or the fall. But there are different ways to view that riddle. That's one possible meaning of it. Another possible meaning is pray you will be accounted worthy to escape. Pray your flight is not in the winter, because 3.5 years later, after a summer escape, would be the winter ascent after the time of trouble. So, I mean, that's another possible way. There are two ways to view that riddle, and basically that means that it can happen in any of the 4 seasons. I mean, there are reasons to expect it after Christmas. There are reasons to expect it around Passover in the spring. There are reasons to expect it at the wheat harvest of Shavuot in the summer season of both the northern and southern hemispheres. And the fall season we also know is a watch. So basically every season is a watch. We don't know. But as I was saying before, Passover in 2015 and 2016 is important because of the fulfillments of Daniel and what he says will happen next. And the eclipses on Passover and Sukkot in 2014 and 2015 are rare. So this is an unusual year. And the other reason the 7-day period of Passover and unleavened bread is always a watch is the Israelites escaped from Egypt at that time. And those writings may be in the prophetic perfect tense, meaning it may have been written as though it was talking about a past event, but really it's a prophecy for the future. And that would make sense because we know the 10 plagues of Egypt resemble the 7 plagues in the book of Revelation, which we know describe the asteroid impact and its after effects. And also, Revelation 11 says the city where the witnesses lie unburied is the great city spiritually called Egypt and Sodom. And it appears to be the pink area right here for reasons we've discussed before. And also, we know the 2 witnesses go to and fro over the whole earth. So this appears to be the location spiritually called Egypt and Sodom. And both the escape from Egypt and the escape from Sodom occurred in the 7-day period between Passover and unleavened bread. So Passover and the 7 days of unleavened bread on the standard calendar this year is April 3rd through April 11th, roughly. And the time after that is a high watch because Joel 2 says the sun will go dark and the moon will turn red before the day of the Lord, or the asteroid impact. And the solar eclipse is on the new moon of the first day of the first standard biblical month, and the lunar eclipse is on standard Passover. So the sun will go dark and the moon will turn red before the day of the Lord means it's also a high watch after the moon turns red on standard Passover. And the ancient calendar observance of Passover will be on May 1st. And there are some significant things converging during the ancient observance of Passover and unleavened bread this year. So first of all, you'll notice there's a note in orange on May 1st that says 2 years and 4 months. And you might remember this vision I uploaded on January 1st, 2013, where I was shown the numbers 1 and 5 and 2 and 4. And this video is in my playlist, Proof the Visions Come True, because a big earthquake occurred on January 5th that year after I uploaded this video, which I thought at first was the meaning of the 1 and the 5. But a few years later, I realized that the vision was showing me the Titanic timeline. And this really blew me away because when I saw the vision, Jesus showed me the numbers 2 and 4, then 1 and 5. And I always get nervous when I see numbers because I think it might be wrong. But he kept miming as though he was looking at a watch on his arm. And I took that as I needed to upload the vision right away. So I got up right away. And when I looked at the clock, it said 2:20. Then I uploaded the video about the vision, which involved Oklahoma or somewhere around there. And the next day, I found out an Oklahoma earthquake occurred at 11:38 UTC time, which is 4 minutes after I uploaded the video the night before. And I never understood the meaning of that synchronization of events until almost 2 years later after I watched the movie Titanic. Because in the movie, the guy says 2 hours and 40 minutes later, the Titanic sank at 2:20 a.m. And I had to pause the movie because I seem to remember having a vision about those numbers. So I went back to look at my record of visions and I saw this one from January 1st and its connection to the times 11:38, 2:20, and the numbers 2 and 4. So I looked up the Titanic timeline and saw that they had recorded spotting the iceberg at 11:38. Then the ship hit the iceberg at 11:40. Then 2 hours and 40 minutes later at 2:20 a.m., the Titanic sank. So that's what made me think that maybe the 2 and the 4 that he showed me represents a time period between maybe, I don't know, but maybe a time period between the day I saw the vision and I don't know, okay, maybe the figurative sinking of the Titanic. I mean, I'm just pointing this out to you. I have no idea if that's what it means, but I did sense from him that I should upload the vision immediately on that day. So maybe the 2 and the 4 does represent a time period. I don't know. But I just think it's interesting though that the 2 years and 4 months from the date I was shown this vision on January 1st, 2013 lands on May 1st, 2015, which is true Passover in the Northern Hemisphere. And May 1st is also known as May Day, which is a spring festival, and also the phrase May Day is used to convey an emergency. So that's just something, and again, I mean, I have no idea if that has anything to do with this vision and the surrounding events. I mean, I can't prove to you that it happened this way, but it's true, it did happen that way, and at the time, it seemed really important. So again, he showed me the numbers 2 and 4. I'm not sure what that means. And the other numbers were 1 and 5. The 1 and 5 may refer to 2015. I don't know. Like I said, there was an Alaska earthquake on January 5th that year. So that may also be the reason for the 1 and the 5. But the 2 and the 4 did seem to be related to the 2 hours and 40 minutes between when the iceberg was spotted and the sinking of the Titanic. So I don't know, but if the 2 and the 4 represented 2 years and 4 months from the day I saw the vision, then that lands on May 1st, 2015, which is May Day and also true Passover. Okay, I also had a dream of the date May 1st in 2014. In this video I uploaded in March of 2014. I recorded on March 18th that I couldn't remember anything about the dream except that I saw the date May 1st. So again, I am not predicting anything for that date. I don't know what, if anything, will occur at all. I don't even know if it has anything to do with 2015, but I just want you to be aware because there are many things converging at that time. And we know sometimes when things converge like that, it's an indication that something of significance will happen at that time. So I had a dream. I saw that date in 2014, just the day May 1st, not the year or anything. And it turns out it's true Passover in 2015 and also 2 years and 4 months from the vision I saw of the 2, the 4, the 1, and the 5. And this date is also associated with a recent dream fulfillment. I had this dream in 2013 of Indiana Jones flying a plane and it crashing and then suddenly being in the clouds. And Harrison Ford, the actor who played Indiana Jones, just crashed piloting a small plane on March 5th. I uploaded a video on that last weekend, and I'll leave the link to this video of the dream in 2013 below if you want to watch it. But I said in the video that I was having dreams about pilots for 3 days in a row on April 29th, April 30th, and May 1st. And in one of in one of the dreams, there were specifically 4 pilots, which I thought may have represented the 4 winds, which in the text has to do with the rescue. It's in Matthew 24 and a few other places. But anyway, so I thought that that had to do with the escape at the time, the 4 pilots, the 4 winds. So in the Harrison Ford dream specifically, when he crashed, then we were suddenly in the clouds. So I just wonder, I mean, I'm not saying this is it, I just wonder if the recent fulfillment of that dream is a clue that the catching up is next. I don't know, of course. I'm just pointing that out. Also, though, the date that I dreamt that was on the 7th day of unleavened bread that year on that alternate chart that predicted the date Pope Benedict announced his resignation. You might remember that chart. So those dreams that I had occurred on the 3-day window of the 7th day of unleavened bread on that chart. And like I said, all 3 days in a row, I had dreams of pilots, and those dreams ended on May 1st, which is this year true Passover, and also the date I was shown in the dream in 2014, and also 2 years and 4 months from the other vision where I was shown the numbers 2, 4, 1, and 5. And also notice May 1st is 5-1. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just pointing it out. But there's another thing. Remember, I was shown the number 14 in a vision I saw in 2011. It was a vision of a huge feast in a huge ballroom. And I asked the angel when, and she showed me the number 14 on a day calendar. And at the time, I didn't realize the connection to Passover, which is the 14th day of the first biblical month. So I don't know, but I'm just, that's one more reason to watch Passover, at least for me. But there's also a convergence occurring on the seventh day of true unleavened bread. So you can see here the Israelites escaped from Egypt during the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the 7 day period from Passover on the 14th day until the seventh day of unleavened bread on the 21st day of the biblical month, as it says in Exodus 12. And Joshua 5 also indicates that the seventh day of unleavened bread is the date the people will ascend up. So it's always a watch for that reason. But this year, the true seventh day of unleavened bread is lining up with the end of the 2,300 days from Obama's oath of office in 2009, right here. So 2,300 days from January 20th, 2009 lands on May 9th, 2015, which is during the window for the true seventh day of unleavened bread. And the reason that matters is the 2,300 days is the time period in Daniel 8 that Gabriel says will occur at the time of the end. And the explanation of this time period is in verse 13. The King James translation says, "How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot?" And we can see the New American translation in the left column, and also the word numbers along with some of the other definitions of the words on the right here. So this here says, "How long will the vision about the regular sacrifice apply?" Okay, and you can see this word translated as regular sacrifice also means continuity. It's number 8548, which also means continual employment. And in modern English, if someone has continual employment, we call that their job or position. So it's saying, how long will the vision about the position and the transgression be desolated and give or put the holy place to be trampled by the army? Okay, but notice the word translated as holy, number 6944, also means hallowed thing or dedicated, hallowed or consecrated. So this verse can also say, how long will the vision about the position and the transgression be desolated and put the hallowed thing to be trampled by the army? That's one translation. I'm not saying it's the only translation. We know it's not the only translation, but we have had at least 5 fulfillments of Daniel 9, which give us the specific number of days between this event involving the position and the idol of terror. We talk about this in the Daniel 9 video and also in the Daniel 12 video. But the taking away of the daily sacrifice in modern times appears to have been the taking of the oath of the position of the President of the United States, Daniel mentioned in chapter 12, because we had a fulfillment of both the 1290 days and the 1335 days after that, which occurred after the 62 and 7 Shavuots and the confirming of the covenant, exactly as it says. So Obama's presidency and his Peace Prize award for confirming the UN peace agreement in 2009, that seems to have been the start of the 7-year period Gabriel warned about in the book of Daniel. It was the taking of the oath 1290 days before the idol of terror, otherwise known as the Abomination of Desolation, was set up. And remember, the sign in Revelation 12 occurred actually 2 months after that. The idol of terror was set up in August. Then the 1335th day Feast of Trumpets happened a month later in September. And then the sign of Revelation 12 occurred a month after that in October. So just in the last video, we discussed Revelation 12 and how the sign in heaven occurred while the first Abomination of Desolation was being set up. And the sign occurred again in 2012, 1 month after the Abomination of Desolation in 2012, which occurred 1,290 days after the oath was taken, just like it says. And one translation of that says, he shall cause Passover to cease. So that's why we're looking at Passover. So this 2,300 days in Daniel 8, Gabriel said will happen at the time of the end. The 2,300 days happen at the time of the end. So how long shall be the vision concerning the position and the transgression be desolated and give the hallowed thing to be trodden underfoot by the army? It will be 2,300 days. Then shall the hallowed thing be cleansed. And this word cleanse means to be put or made right. So we also know that word in Daniel 8 verse 11, when it says taken away, we know that means depose, and depose means to take oath. We've talked about all of this before. So it can say, starting in verse 11, and by him the position was taken oath, and the place of the sanctuary cast down. So the word him refers to the little horn, which we found out in the previous video is Israel. So the recent fulfillments of Daniel 9 indicate the position taken oath was the presidency of the United States, and the little horn is the country of Israel. So Daniel 8:11 says, by him, in other words, Israel, the position was taken oath, and the place of the sanctuary was cast down. And the sanctuary, we also know from Daniel 12, from those fulfillments of Daniel 12, we know it represents the One World Trade Center. And we know that because the placement of the steel beam into the One World Trade Center was the fulfillment of the 1290th day. So it also seems to be saying here that Israel was behind the Twin Tower tragedy, the place of the sanctuary cast down. I mean, I don't know much about that, but there are a lot of people saying that. I mean, if you search that on YouTube, there are about 45,000 results for that. So like I said, I don't know anything about that, but that's one possible meaning of Daniel 8:11, because we know the fulfillments of Daniel 12 told us the hallowed thing refers to the One World Trade Center. So that is a possibility for what it refers to here. But I mean, we don't know that for sure yet. This is speculation about something that hasn't happened yet. I mean, the 2,300 days I'm talking about. But if that's what it refers to, then verse 12 says an army was given to him against or by the position by reason of transgression. So we're going to look at that. Notice in the original Hebrew, the word against isn't here. It says the transgression will give the army or put the army above the position. So remember that word position appears to refer to the President of the United States, because the fulfillment of both the 1290 and 1335 days started at the oath of the presidency in 2009. That's one translation of Daniel 12. From the taking of the oath until the setting up of the idol of terror will be 1290 days, and the blessed are longing for and reaching for the 1335th day, which was the Feast of Trumpets that year. So verse 12 can say the transgression put the army above the position, and it cast the truth to the ground. And then he asked, how long shall be the vision concerning the position and the transgression and the desolation that gives the hallowed place to be trodden underfoot by the army? And he says, until 2,300 days, then shall the hallowed place be cleansed or made right. So again, it's clearly talking about the taking of the oath of the position in verse 11. by him, the little horn, the position was taken oath in the place of the hallowed thing cast down. So I don't know. It could also be talking about something having to do with Israel here. I mean, we know the fulfillment was New York City in Daniel 12, but maybe it's talking about Israel here. I don't know. Okay, I'm just telling you what it says. So again, the taking of the oath, though, I mean, in Daniel 12, it was the taking of the oath in 2009, because 1290 days after that, the idol of terror was placed in the One World Trade Center. So that's why we're watching the end of that 2300 days from the oath of office in 2009, which ends on May 9th, 2015. That's a huge watch. And it's also occurring during the window of the 7th day of true unleavened bread on the ancient calendar. So again, I don't know what, if anything, will occur. We haven't reached the date yet, so no one knows. I'm just pointing out that it's a date to watch to see what happens, if anything. And it might give us another clue as to what these riddles mean. So for me, May 1st through the 9th is the high watch this season. And the watches that are coming up next are the solar eclipse on March 20th, then March 23rd through the 25th for something having to do with the Islamic State and or North Korea, then standard Passover starting on April 3rd. So that's it. I just wanted to let you know. Also that I've been putting together a concise playlist that explains the reasons the Bible seems to indicate the asteroid impact may occur in either 2015 or 2016. Again, that's not a prediction. It's just an observation that the texts do seem to highlight this time period, and I explain in detail why that is in a concise and organized way in this playlist right here. It's on my main channel page. It's a work in progress right now, so some of the older videos are being redone because people were complaining that the sound was bad last year. So I'm trying to speak up and redo some of those other videos, and I'm also adding new information as we go. I also have a backup channel right here that only has the new Bible countdown videos on it. So if you want to share this information with someone without all of the other stuff, then this right here is an option for you. So I just wanted to let you know about that. That's the backup channel. So I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you probably next week. Okay, bye-bye.